Hi, I'm Matteo Romiti, research engineer from the Austrian Institute of Technology, and in this short presentation we will dive into Bitcoin and mining pools, and hopefully you will get curious about our research paper done in collaboration with Alyosha and Alexei from SPA Research in Vienna. Let's start.
So, what are we going to see in the next minutes? After giving you the context of our work with research questions and some background notions, we will see how centralized Bitcoin mining is, which patterns we can find when investigating the miners, and who these miners are. Finally, we will conclude with some takeaways in the discussion section. Why do we care about miners? There are many reasons, I think, but these are the most important ones. They decide which transactions and which blocks to include in the blockchain. They get rewards in Bitcoin for the work they do, which is securing the network. But they can also attack the network, for example, through a 51% attack, and then they can double spend some coins. And what about mining pools? Why do they exist? As you may know, solo mining is not profitable anymore. So what happens is that miners join forces and create groups, known as mining pools, to have more computing power and have higher chances of making money in a steadier way. These pools will then compete against each other to mine the next block and get the rewards. In general, we can say that a pool manager is needed to coordinate the work and split the rewards among members. But there are also some peer-to-peer protocols for decentralized mining. One last note to keep in mind: nobody prevents me from joining multiple pools, and this is what we call cross-pool mining, and we will see during the presentation. Okay, now our research questions. First, we wanted to focus on mining centralization. The question here is how it evolved and how it is now. Keep in mind that one of the pillars of blockchains, at least in Bitcoin, is decentralization. Second, we want to understand how a pool distributes rewards among its members and how we can detect these transactions. Third, we will look at how decentralized mining pools are and what we can say about their members. Before we answer these questions, I need to introduce you two concepts that are quite common in this field. The first is what we called the COINBASE flow, and if you want, you can see it as a tree-like structure. It starts from a COINBASE transaction on the left at the root, that is where a pool is creating new Bitcoin, and then this Bitcoin is spent with further transactions. And as you can see, there is the reward address at level 1, so the Coinbase is sending money to this address, and then we have additional addresses that receive money. And the collector address is what is used to send money to pool members that are here represented in blue dots. And in the first research question, we will look at this section, so very close to the Coinbase, to attribute the block to some pools, some mining pools. The second question will address this section here, so how the patterns are created. And then the last question is focusing on the pool members only. The second concept that also is quite known in this field is known as co-spend clustering heuristic. And as you can see here, we have two transactions, transaction 1 and transaction 2. And in general, we can assume that all the input addresses A1, A2, A3 are controlled by the same entity, because this entity controls the private keys of these addresses. And if there is another transaction where we see A3 as input, so the same address as before as input, then what we can say is that all these addresses are controlled by the same entity because they control the private keys. And this is what we perform with GraphSense, our open source tool that allows us to cluster addresses and perform cryptocurrency analytics. Okay, I think now we are good to start and dive into the pools. First, we want to see how decentralized or centralized the Bitcoin mining is. The first issue we have to solve is how to attribute blocks to pools, which means who mined which block. Well, there are different public sources available, and we combine them to try to come up with a single attribution for each block. Here we see the mining distribution over 5 years, beginning 2014 till the end of 2018, among mining pools. Each stack represents a pool, while the gray one is for smaller miners. And the Gini index in black measures the decentralization of the mining distribution, and you can see that it follows a sort of cyclical pattern. And I think this plot is hiding also some interesting aspects. First, you see ANTPOOL in yellow. It is a pool owned by Bitmain, which is a Chinese hardware manufacturer. And a few years ago, it bought BTC, which is represented in blue, BTC.com. And a few months later, again, Bitmain financed another pool, VIABTC, in orange, above the blue one. And so these three stacks are not completely unrelated. Of course, everybody can join and leave these pools, but still we can say that Bitmain is influencing these three pools. And it's something that we should keep in mind when we think about Bitcoin mining. Another aspect is this. Among all the major pools, only 2 of them are not run by Chinese. Now we can move to the second research question, namely, how does a pool distribute mining rewards among members? How can we detect these transactions? So this is what we found for BTC.com, and you can find more details in the paper, but the concept is that the payments to pool members were performed always from the same address, which is called the collector address here, and it is used in this sort of chain, and always the same address was reused to receive payments from the COINBASE, to receive the rewards from the COINBASE transaction. And here you can see the pool members are listed in this payout transaction. This is the payout pattern that we discovered in ANTPOOL, which is very similar to BTC.com. And the only difference here is that the pool manager was not always reusing the same address to perform the payments to the members. As you can see here, there is a change address in green that changes at every step, at every payout transaction. So it's similar to BTC.com, but the chain uses a different payout address, and it was therefore more difficult to follow this chain. The last pool that we analyzed was VIABTC, and differently from the other pools, BTC.com and ANTPOOL, this pool does not reuse a payout collector address to pay out to members. What they do instead is they gather 10 Bitcoin into one address, and then they use this to split the rewards into pool members. And so at the level 1 we have always the same reward address, but at level 2 we have different addresses always receiving 10 Bitcoin. Okay, now that we discovered these patterns, we will look at all these payments to pool members, and in particular we will look inside each pool and try to understand a bit more about them. And the first result for this research question is this graph, this plot, where we can see that if, for example, we focus on BTC.com until block height 510,000, we can see that BTC.com, the blue line, the dotted blue line, we can see that 18 members of BTC.com were receiving 50% of the mining shares of BTC.com, the pool, while for VIABTC, the green line, we have 7 members that were receiving 50% of the mining shares. So this is giving you an idea of how decentralized or centralized each of the analyzed pools are. And in this case, we can conclude that, for example, VIABTC was more centralized than BTC.com, at least for the data that we gathered. Another interesting result that we found was that many of these entities, of these members that were mining for a pool, were also active in other pools. And as you can see here, we have a quite strong cross-pool mining activity. What does this mean? We mean with this figure, we mean that on the left we have mining pools and on the right we have members. And as you can see, for example, Bixin and Huobi and other exchanges were seen as members of different mining pools at the same time. It could be simply clients, users of these exchanges actively mining with these pools. But as you can see, the vast majority of the members are falling into the category of unknown entities. And it's not only one, but it's multiple entities that we collapse into one single entity. So after this summary of results, I wanted you to keep this information with you, and we do this in this list of takeaways. And so what are the answers that we found? Mining centralization has followed a cyclical pattern so far, I would say. 3 to 4 mining pools control 51% of the entire market share. Not always, but for some time. Bitmain and China play a key role in the mining industry, for sure. Major pools follow specific patterns, and we saw them to distribute mining rewards, and they show also some centralization tendencies. And miners are also active across multiple pools. And we noticed that some exchanges and wallet services are used to receive payouts. And I hope you found this presentation useful and also interesting. And you can find more details and material in our list of links here on the web, and feel free to get back to us with questions or feedbacks. Thank you for watching.